Hey everybody, what's going on? In the previous video, we developed cafe list, and in this video, we want to develop other things in the page. So let's back to the project for doing that. First of all, we need to add menu and search image to our project. Let's go to the asset folder for adding them to the project. And I just add a couple of image set for storing menu image and search image there. So let's back to code. For creating the top page portion, I create a new SwiftUI view and I called it Up Menu. As you can see, for the top page portion, we need a horizontal stack for keeping them on it. And for each object, we create a button for having an action. I don't write anything in the action closure, and I just develop the appearance part. Here's the part that we can create our button appearance, and I create an image with our menu image for that. Here we need to define a frame for our image, so let's back to Xcode file and find out the image height and width. And as you can see, we need a frame with 23 for width and 18 for height. So let's back to the project and add a frame with 23 for width and 18 for height to the image. Also, when we want to resize an object, we should allow it to be a resizable object. We should modify the button style with plain button style for using image color instead of buttons color. So let's back to the Xcode file and it's time to create our search button. And I just created same as previous button. And now we need to separate them, and I use spacer object between them. Also, we need to add a leading padding for the menu, and we need to add a trailing padding for the search button. Let's back to content view for using this object. For using the up menu, we just need to call it in the vertical stack. And as you can see, it was created on the screen. Now we need a spacer for separating them. Now we need to add padding for the up menu for make it appearance better. So let's back to code for doing that. And I add 28 from top. Our next responsibility is to create the header of the page. Let's back to code for creating this part. First of all, as you can see, it has two different colors, and we need to define the second color on our project. And I define it as a color set in the asset folder in the project. And I just renamed it to header text color. Let's back to content view for creating this object. First, we need to create a horizontal stack and create our objects on it. I create two texts there for storing texts separately. I use the first text for storing its great sentence and the next one for using the other sentence. Also, I define the title font with the medium font weight for the first text. And now it's time to create a text with Day for Coffee content. And I set a title font with semi-bold font weight for this text. So it's time to set the foreground color, and I set the header text color for this text. I guess I wrote it wrong, so I copied the color name and replace on the code. So let's check. You can see the header on the screen. So now we need to add padding on leading and trailing entire header object. Also, we need to add top padding for the header. I add 20 points for leading padding, 90 trailing padding, and 40 for top padding. Or may remove the 40 for the top padding and set automatic for the top padding. Also, we need a space after its great sentence. Also, we need to set float horizontal and fixed vertical size for the stack view. So it's time to remove the spacer between header and the list. And we should define a spacer in the bottom of the vertical stack exact after the myList object. It's time to create the bottom part of the page. Let's back to the project for creating this part. First, I create a new group and call it public object. And now I create a new SwiftUI view file there and call it nav menu. First, we need to add image objects to the project. I've exported them before and I'm adding them to the project. Let's back to the nav menu for using them. First, I create a horizontal stack in the body of the view and I'll create all objects into this stack. I create a button for each object in this stack. And at the moment, I don't write any code for the action and I just prepare the appearance of the button. Now I create an image with home image for the button's appearance. Let's press resume button to check the image. And I set button style to plain button style for using the exact image color. And also we need to resize the image to the exact size of image on the XD file. So I define a frame with 23.2 and 23.69 for the image. Also, I should make the image as a resizable image. As you can see, we have two different colors for the buttons, and we should define and use both of them. And I defined both of them on the asset folder of the project, and I called them unselected and selected. Let's back to the nav menu and continue the code. Here I don't need button style and I'll set a custom color for the foreground color. And I set unselected color as its foreground color. Press resume to see the result. Now I create other items same as this item. As you can see, we need equal gaps between the objects. So let's back to the project for adding some spacer objects. Also, we need a spacer objects before and after buttons. So now we must add padding for each buttons. Now it's time to add the object that was created to the main view. So let's back to the content view and add the nav menu on it. And I add the nav menu after the last spacer. As you can see, there isn't any background for the nav menu, so let's do it. As you can see, two corners of the background view have radius and two other them don't have any radius. For doing, I use Geometry Reader and I'll attach an article link to a YouTube video for reading more. And now we need to set the background with custom rectangle that we created before. And now we should set a white background with 46 radius for each top corners. Let's back to the content view for check the result. And the last thing, we just set a shadow background for the nav menu. I declare the shadow color to the asset folder for using in the project. So now it's time to add the shadow on the nav menu. I just add a shadow to nav menu with the color that I declared it in the asset folder before, with 88 for radius and 0 and 2 as an X and Y. So let's check. May have made a mistake for color name, and let's check. Yes, it's a mistake for color name and I replace it and it will work. you can see there is a pretty beautiful shadow around the menu. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe us and like video. Have a nice time and see you soon.